Chapter 11 or Topic 9 under Science Bio O-Level, Coordinations and Response, Part 1, Nervous System. There are three parts under the coordination and response: receptor for eye, nervous system, and the effector for endocrine glands. Under this topic, you are required to know that the nervous system, the brain, spinal cords, and the nerves serves to coordinate and regulate the body functions, and to outline the functions of sensory, relay, and the motor neurons. For part 1, the chapter outline will be on sensitivity and to introduce the human nervous system and the three types of the neurons. Sensitivity. What is the meaning of sensitivity? In the environment, if there's a change that causes relations or reactions, we call it a stimulus. The organism reactions to a stimulus is called a response. Organism ability to detect and respond to the changes, and hence is called sensitivity. Activities carried out by the mammals are either A. Voluntary or B. Involuntary. If we look at sensitivity or the purpose of nervous system, example like the unicellular cells amoeba, they react by moving away from the unpleasant conditions, or in this case we call the stimuli. However, for multicellular organisms like humans, we require the communications between the cells to elicit a response to a stimuli. So for multicellular organisms, we required a specialized network to detect, process, and coordinate the response to the stimuli, or in this case we call the nervous system. Example, what is your typical response to stimuli? When you are in contact with something hot, you automatically withdraw your hand, or the plants will grow towards the light to carry out for photosynthesis, and bacteria will move towards the food sources. The role of the nervous system allows the organisms to detect the changes in their surrounding and respond to it, and hence enables the coordinations of the different parts of the body to react to these stimuli. 11.2 The human nervous system. If we look at the components of the human nervous system, it's made out of the central nervous system, or we call it CNS, which consists of the brain and the spinal cords. The peripheral nervous system, or we call the PNS, it consists mainly of the different types of nerves, the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves. Both of these cranial and the spinal nerves involved in the voluntary and the involuntary actions. How does the nervous system process the information? First, the information must be gathered by the different type of receptors, after which is converted into the electrical signal, or we call the nerve impulses. The nerve impulses are transmitted by the peripheral nerves to the central nervous system, either the brain or the spinal cord. And then from there, the brain processes the information based on the patterns of the nerve impulse and send the nerve impulse back to the effector to carry out a certain action. To remind again on the role of the nervous system is to allow the organism to detect the changes in their surrounding and to respond to it, and also to enable the coordinations of the different parts of the body. These functions can be achieved because the central nervous system able to receive the stimuli from the different types of receptors and integrates the stimuli received from these receptors by respond to it and by the actions of sending the signals to the different effectors. All these couldn't be achieved if there's no what we call the nervous tissues. The nervous tissues is also what we call the nerve cell as neurons. There are three types of neurons: sensory neurons, motor neurons, the relay, or we call the intermediate neurons. Sensory neurons, the one at the middle here, they are the neurons that transmit the nerve impulse from the receptor or the sensor organs to the central nervous system. Motor neurons, they help to transmit the nerve impulse from the central nervous system to the effector. Effector is part of the bodies that carry out the actions. Examples like skeletal muscles. The relay or the intermediate neurons, which are smaller, they are used to transmit the nerve impulse from the sensory neurons to the motor neurons. We also call it as intermediate neurons because it connects one from the other. How does the neurons look like? It has three parts: the cell body, axon, which carry the nerve impulse away from the cell body, and the dendrons. Dendrons can branch out to the smaller branch, or we call dendrites. The cell body consists of the nucleus that help to coordinate the actions of the neurons. In this case, since axons carry the nerve impulse away from the cell body, here is the exit, here is the entrance. When the neuron receives the signal from the receptor, it helps to carry, or the directions of the nerve impulse is from the receptor through the dendrons, go through the cell body, and out from the axons. Now let's look at the relationship between the three different types of neurons. First, we need to have a receptor or the sense organs. In this case, this is the receptor. It follows by the sensory neurons, and the nerve impulse will travel from the directions from the receptor through the sensory neurons. At the central nervous system, the nerve impulse are connected by the relay neurons. And from the central nervous system, to elicit the response, the nerve impulse travels through the relay neurons to the motor neurons. Motor neurons, the dendrites, are connected to the effector. In this case, are the skeletal muscles, in which it will carry out the actions either by relaxing or contracting of the muscles. How does the structure of the sensory neurons look like? The sensory neurons transmit the nerve impulse from the sense organs to the central nervous system. Remember, neurons, they have three main parts, so now we will look into the three main parts for the sensory neurons. Nerve impulse travels from the entrance point, which is the receptor, through a long dendrons, go through a circular cell body, and and pass through the short axons to exit and transmit to the central nervous system. Sensory neurons has a few special features. Examples, they have a circular cell body that is protruded out. They have a longer dendrons and short axons. The myelin sheath is one that enables the nerve impulse to actually travel faster on a sensory neurons. How about for the motor neurons? Motor neurons transmit the nerve impulse from the central nervous system to the nerve effector. Different from the sensory neurons, the dendrites of the motor neurons are shorter compared to the sensory neurons. They are the nerve fibers that transmit the nerve impulse towards the cell body. In this case, the motor neuron cell body is irregular in shape. This is the cell body for the motor neurons. The nerve impulse travels initially from the dendrons all the way go through the cell body, then move through to the effector or the skeletal muscles in this case. What are the difference between the sensory neurons and the motor neurons? First, we look at the movement of the impulse. Sensory neurons are from the receptor or the sensory organs to the central nervous system. But motor neurons is from the other way, from the central nervous system to the effector to bring the actions. The cell body of the sensory neuron, this one is a cell body. This is a cell body here. They are found on the axons outside the central nervous.